Like many days already, the scorching sunlight wakes you up. You open your eyes and remember the fact that it has already been 3 days after the plane has crashed and you are stranded in this desert. You don't know what to do anymore except to walk aimlessly in one direction, hoping for some miracle to happen. You're thirsty, you're on the verge of death, but you see a sand dune up ahead, tall enough perhaps to get a bird's eye view of your surroundings. You trek slowly towards it, climbing up the loose backside of the sand dune. You slip 3 steps downwards as you take 1 step upwards. But finally, you get to the top and you look around. In front of you, you see an oasis. You couldn't believe the fact that this degree of fortune has just visited you. You rub your eyes, check your vision, but no, it's not an illusion. It's really there. You couldn't believe it. You thought you were just going to faint, but now there's water, there's trees, there's life. You started sprinting down the other side of the sand dune towards it. You have never felt this energetic, this revitalized, and this happy in your life ever. In what seemed like no time, you arrived at the edge of the water. Trembling, you stick your hand down, and the welcoming feeling of fresh coldness touched your fingertips. It really is true. You start drinking. You use your hands to cup water up to your mouth. The liquid magically restores life, restores hope back into your soul. You couldn't get enough of it. You jump into it, feeling the water running through your skin. You have been saved. You thanked fate. You thanked God as tears of happiness, tears of joy runs down your skin. After this initial wave of excitement is over, you start to realize that perhaps you have escaped imminent danger. After 2 days without food, hunger is catching up to you. You stood up, thought, in this oasis, there must be civilization, there must be people, and perhaps they will help me. You walked deeper into the woods, and, as if it was another miracle, you saw men, you saw women, you saw children. You saw humanity in the hearts of this desolation. You walked up to them, showing your hands so they don't think you have bad intentions. You asked them for food. They smiled wryly, although they are willing to help a life in despair. Food to them is also an item on top of their priority list. They asked you to work. It's not ideal. You are already drained of energy, down to the bare bones. But what other choice do you have? At this time, the need for survival is too high. You obediently did the hard work that was necessary for your survival. And finally, you were rescued, and you returned home to your normal life. Reflecting on this incredible experience, you gradually started to realize that this, indeed, was an unforgettable lesson on the true nature of motivation. In our normal lives, sometimes we just feel that the motivation for what we truly need to do is simply outcompeted by the motivation for things that work against what we need to achieve. You reflected back on your experience on those first days of looking for water, and you noticed something interesting. As you looked for water, the need did not change when you saw the oasis, but the intensity of motivation did. Motivation can truly be split into two parts: the motivator and the drive. Where motivator is the direction, such as the water that you desperately looked for, but the drive is indeed the intensity that changed as you finally saw a definite end goal, versus when you're just blindly searching for the elusive survival resource. Suddenly, you realized perhaps the drive, the intensity of the motivation, is indeed the most important component of it. But having a definite end goal doesn't seem to always ensure a high drive. You reflected back on the experience where you had to work for food. The drive certainly wasn't as high as you sprinted towards the oasis for water. Then you came to a revealing realization that the nature of the drive as you ran towards the oasis for water was essentially different than as you worked for the inhabitants for food. The first of which was intrinsic. It was natural, it was intuitive that you have to cover the distance in order to get the survival needs you needed. However, the connection between working and food was only established through others, and in this case, it was simply an extrinsic drive proposed by others. You are inspired. You wanted to share your experience in the desert. You want to become a writer. Although writing books is not an easy thing, but you could confidently say that with such strong intrinsic motivation, you can overcome any obstacle. You looked back on your daily tasks and responsibilities, such as school, writing class, and part-time jobs, and you realized they're all here to help you reach your end goal, to become a writer. And this end goal of becoming an author is such a deeply rooted motivator with strong intrinsic drive towards it. Although not everyone has experiences of surviving in the desert, but everyone can find motivation. If you simply live your life without direction, you'll get very little from the sheer amount of effort you invest into everything. But with deliberation and dedication to your cause, you can achieve what you're meant to. Therefore, it's so important to find a motivator with intrinsic drive, something that you truly care about, something that you're willing to sacrifice anything and everything to achieve. But how do you find such precious forms of motivation? Remember, being stranded in the desert, not knowing where the water that's going to save your life is? Do not give up until you see the oasis. It might just be beyond the next dune, or it might be beyond the next 1,000 dunes. But it's somewhere there, in your emotional desert. As you climb over the last dune and seeing the oasis of your life in front of your eyes, you will never forget the feeling of knowing that nothing is impossible.